Yeah. Well, of course you can, but I don't know if the
Mhm.
chat can. If you could actually like read my lips and tell me what I was saying without hearing me, I'd be pretty impressed. That would be a miracle.
Yep.
All right. We definitely have people in the chat, so
Okay.
just wait a few minutes, let them say stuff. Your camera is wobbling a bit.
Oh, you know what? Let me fasten this here. Yeah, I don't want to look like a bobblehead. There you go.
All right. I think we're live. So do you want to give like an introduction to what you wanted to talk about?
Sure. Okay.
Because
So we,
just to clarify, the title is set for are there any scientific errors? So
yeah, I guess we had a brief discussion on why the Quran is a scientific miracle. So what I will be bringing is evidence and proofs showing why the Quran is a scientific miracle. We just had a brief discussion, last time, and so, but for sure, in the future, I'll schedule a time with you where we could challenge: does the Quran contradict science like the Bible does?
and could you
Uh,
clarify what
yeah,
scientific miracle means? Because atheists, that doesn't mean anything to atheists. Normally, it would be like a scientific error or a fact or something, or like a prediction. You're claiming that the Quran makes scientific predictions. That's the
Well, what I mean by scientific miracle is that when you look at the scientific data in the Quran, and we try to explain, well, how is it that there's one man who's the author of all of the scientific information? We cannot come up with a natural explanation um, for that. Like, oh, well, it just might have been a coincidence. Maybe he borrowed from some other source. Maybe it was plagiarized. Nothing, as far as a human explanation of what humans can do, explains what we see. So therefore, it has to be a supernatural explanation. It's the only one which makes sense.
well, that definition doesn't quite work because of the. Do you know what the
Mhm.
problem of underdetermination is in science?
Oh, go ahead, tell me.
It means that there's infinitely many ways to explain anything, always, no matter what. So all
Okay.
evidence can always have a natural explanation, no matter what. Like the entire universe could have been created by magical bunnies, two magical bunnies, three magical bunnies, four magical bunnies. Could have been created
Sure.
5 seconds ago, 6 seconds ago, 7 seconds ago. So there's always infinitely many ways to explain anything. So it
Yeah.
doesn't count just to say there isn't a naturalistic explanation because there always is.
Okay, well, let's see if we can find a natural explanation because I can tell you there isn't. And so let's do 2 minutes back and forth. Do you want me to keep time? And we'll show you that, there only is one
Uh,
explanation, and that is supernatural.
sure, if you can disprove the problem of underdetermination, I would
Yeah,
definitely be
no
impressed.
problem.
Go
We
for it.
can we can we can definitely do that. And so I tell you what, let's each of us keep our own time, maybe. I
I,
got my you got your
I
you got
usually
your
don't
I'll
speak
use
for
my
2 minutes, so it's usually not going to be a
oh,
problem.
great. That gives me the advantage.
Yep, go for
Okay.
it.
So let me go ahead. Okay. So let me start with the first piece of evidence. So one thing I want to make it clear is that it's not just based on one piece of evidence. It's if you look at the evidence collectively, then we're going to ask that question. So the first thing I want to point out to you about the Quran is number one, some great things scientifically is how is the Quran from a scientific point of view, is responsible for saving millions of children from fetal alcohol syndrome. The Quran condemns alcohol. Now, there's many beliefs, religions out there which do actually condemn alcohol. But what's special about the Quran, it has something which others don't have, and that is implementation. Let me see if I could just share my desktop over here. So what do I mean by that? It means,
You could
okay,
actually, if you open
yeah.
another window and join the same site, you can have the window open and your face at the same time if you want that way.
Oh, let me see if I can do this here real quick. I tell you what, let me let me try sharing my desktop over here. Just give me 1 second here. Um, oh, you know what? Oh, you know what? There you go. Let me try this again. I think there is a. Hold on a second. Just give me 1 second. I'm having a little technical difficulty here.
No
Okay,
problem.
here we go. Oh, if you expand it and make it full screen, it doesn't come up under application window. Okay, I just figured it out. Okay, so going back to what I was saying.
Yep, there you go.
so, I'll just do 1 minute real quick over here. You're not going to find 5-year-old kids drinking beer in in Islamic history because the Quran clearly condemned alcohol. Now, researchers have pointed out that Muslim women are 50 times less likely than the average person to give alcohol, to give birth to a fetal alcohol baby. Now, this is just one evidence number one, and my time is up, so I'll go ahead and give it over to TJ.
Okay, so I'm still trying. So you defined a miracle as something that has no scientific explanation, and your first example was that there is less fetal alcohol syndrome in Islam. That has a perfectly reasonable naturalistic explanation. The people in Islam have less cases of drinking. There's no explanation there that requires anything non-natural.
Do you want to? Okay, I guess.
Yeah, I don't talk for 2 minutes. I usually just bring up one point.
Yeah,
so.
Okay. Well, we'll talk up to 2 minutes. Let's just do that.
Yeah,
okay, so let me just quickly answer you. So I totally agree with you. And so what you're doing, you're actually attacking a straw man argument.
Wait. Sorry, just to interrupt. So remember, you defined a miracle in that way, right? So
TJ, just to go over the format, you got to let me speak uninterrupted for up to 2 minutes, and I do not interrupt you for up to 2 minutes.
Well, I need clarification here. So this is not, you defined a miracle as a thing that cannot have a naturalistic explanation, right?
Natural explanation.
And the first example you gave was there's less fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yes, let me explain that. See, we are in agreement. If you just look at this one particular argument alone, it's hypothetically possible that it could have a natural explanation. Maybe we could come up with a lot of different ideas. So this, of course, we are in agreement. This is not some kind of miracle which doesn't have a natural explanation. But this is just evidence number one. But when we start looking at the totality and we start looking at all the pieces of evidence, then we're going to ask that question: does it have a natural explanation? So we are in agreement. That this we could hypothetically, it's possible some human being can do that.
Okay, can you give me like the cumulative case? Give me all of the facts that are like what are required that don't have.
Okay, so let's move on to.
And you just bullet point list them so that we all know beforehand.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my 2 minutes. So I can spray you, I guess, with all the other points to go very quickly. So I'm going to share my desktop here real quick again. So going back, I'm going to take 2 minutes. Going back to this one point, it's not just that the Quran has saved millions of children from fetal alcohol syndrome, but there's many good things as well. For example, we know, like in the case of American Indians and other than them, some indigenous people, they can't have any alcohol, and we have entire reservations of Indians, people who are suffering from alcoholism, and as well as all the crime related. So it's not just FAS. So from a scientific point of view, at least this is what the scientists did point out, that the Quran went in there, and they were actually not even researching.
Nadir, I'm sorry, I gotta interrupt you again. You gotta concise your points down. Like, could you just say, okay, here is TJ, my argument.
You can't interrupt me for 2 minutes. That's
Nadir, I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna mute you again if this continues. You have to be direct to the point. I need to be able to follow the point to understand what you're saying. So just give me a list. Here are all of the facts, just the facts that cannot be explained naturally. Just give me the list of the facts and nothing else. No other information, just the bullet point list of the facts.
Okay. But TJ, in order for us to have a fair debate, you have to allow me to speak uninterrupted for up to 2 minutes, and I will allow you to speak uninterrupted for up to 2 minutes.
Okay? I don't care if it's fair. I don't need it to be fair. So I just need you to answer my questions.
Then I can't have it.
That's fine too. I'm happy with that too, but I need you to answer my questions because I make them very, very clear so the audience can understand.
We'll answer your questions.
Could you list all of the things that cannot be explained in accumulation? Just the bullet point, because I'm trying to write them down. I don't need all of the extra facts. I don't care about other Indian societies. Just give me your evidence, nothing else.
Okay. Fine. I will do that for you, but I was just finishing my first point, TJ, and I was going to do that for you before you interrupted me. There was no need for you to interrupt me.
I need you to do it before you go on the diatribe about irrelevant information.
Okay. But before we go forward, before we move forward with that, TJ, we got to have a format here that we can both agree to. And I thought we just agreed that we will speak uninterrupted for 2 minutes, okay? And then I understand there might have been some things that were confusing, I said, and that's totally fine. You can ask for those clarifications in your 2 minutes. Okay?
No, that's not. Sorry, Nadir. That's not how this is going to work. I'm going to tell you, you need to say this, and then that's what you need to say. So tell me exactly the evidence. No diatribes, just the bullet points. Exactly, just the argument, nothing else. Because
if you need, I can agree with that. I can agree with this, TJ. If you need a clarification on something, you can interrupt me then. Okay, I will make that one exception to the rule. Okay. So let me go ahead and list the other points very quickly.
Yes.
And
slowly so I can type them.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. So there's more good scientific value in the Quran other than fetal alcohol syndrome. I'm going to just take 2 minutes. I won't take more than that. So let's look at the other points for TJ. So we also see that the Quran corrects the scientific errors of the Bible, for which has led to just undue suffering, which has caused suffering in people's life. For example, the Quran corrected the issue of the virginity test. The Bible mandates a virginity test. We could look all throughout history. Christians have suffered from this bogus virginity test. We know from a scientific point of view that there really is no such thing, in the sense that we know from science today that there are people who are born without hymens. They're not going to bleed on a bed sheet. We know these things. We know from a scientific point of view that there are people who rupture their hymen. We know that there are people who have been sexually molested. These people have all been subjugated to a biblical virginity test all throughout history. Well, the great thing from a scientific point of view about the Quran is that it abolishes a virginity test. But not only that, we see the misery doesn't end here with the New Testament. We see from the Bible, it said that, divorce is only in the case of adultery.
I'm getting lost, Nadir. It seems
Yeah.
like all of this is just the one point. You correct scientific errors in the Bible. You could have just said that
Yes.
one sentence and then stopped and then go
Okay.
to the next point. So I don't know. Like none of this seems to be a further point. You're just adding on to the one point.
These
Correct.
Okay, I'm just going to give you the other point here.
Okay.
We also see from a scientific point of view, from the issue of divorce. Divorce, the Bible only.
Wait, is this just another example of correct scientific error? Because I'm trying to where is the next point? I'm trying to
Yeah.
this is just an example of, I don't need more examples. You already said that point. What's the next point?
Okay. So now we're seeing that from a scientific, to sum up what I'm saying here, from a scientific point of view, the Quran has greatly helped humanity, and this is something which we see is actually.
Is this a third point, or is this?
This is a summation of that first point.
Okay, so the first point was fetal. The first point was fetal alcohol syndrome. The second point was correct scientific errors, and then the benefit thing is just a summation of the other two, essentially.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Now let me move on to the other issue. I'm going to share my desktop here real quick here. And I'll be very quick for you, and I'll try to be as I hate rambling on, but let's go to so it's not just that Islam did all these things, but we also see that Islam brought the Quran specifically initiated and laid the foundation for what we call the golden age of Islam, an age what we call basically a scientific revolution. We see. Let me just quote to you facts which are taught inside schools.
Wait. So I don't need examples of the scientific revolution. I'm just going to grant all of your points right now. I just need a list of just the points. So
okay,
we have.
But this is also, I want to make sure I educate the audience, and so they understand what I'm talking about. I understand that, but let me just show my references for them. I'm just going to read from you from this one Lumen Learning. This is what is taught in schools all over the world. The Islamic Golden Age started with the rise of Islam and the establishment of the first Islamic State. And so also, this is from New York Times. Commanded by the Quran to seek knowledge and read nature for signs of the Creator, and inspired by a treasure trove of ancient Greek learning, Muslims created a society that in the Middle Ages was the scientific center of the world. Okay, so that's my final point on that. Let me show you. So it's not just Muhammad, corrected the scientific errors, saved kids from fetal alcohol syndrome, but it sparked a scientific revolution. Now, my last point, because I want to make it very quickly, and this is going back to the verse which we talked about. Let me end my share. But I'll tell you what, TJ, did you want to just talk a little bit about this?
Were those the only 3 points? Were there any more points? Or is that?
I was going to mention a verse in the Quran which has 4 scientifically correct statements
The
about
bees one?
the bees, yes.
Okay,
But did you want to comment anything on this?
Well, my comment is I think you should take a class on how to debate and form an argument. It would be extremely helpful in
And so should you. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually do this really well with professors. You're doing a very bad job of explaining this. So the
Okay,
correct way.
let's bury the hatchet and just talk about the point here. Go
Right,
ahead.
right. So I just want to clarify, like what you should have said was, I have 4 points that are inexplicable through natural means. The 4 points in collection are fetal alcohol syndrome, correcting scientific errors in the Bible, scientific revolution, and these 4 facts about the bees. Like if you just said that in 5 seconds, that would have been a great summation of your argument. That's all you needed to say. And so that would have been just some debate advice for you. All of those can be explained perfectly naturally. There's nothing about them that can't be. So fetal alcohol syndrome, if you ban alcohol and you punish it with severe beatings and death, you can definitely convince people to stop drinking. So sure, that's perfectly explained naturally. Correct scientific errors in the Bible. All newer books can correct the facts in older books. It's very simple. If you have new information, you can write that new information down, which corrects the old information. No supernatural required there. Scientific revolution happened in many societies, happened before Islam. China had a golden revolution. Israel had a golden revolution. The Incan society had a golden revolution. Everyone had a golden revolution. No supernatural required there. And 4 facts about the bees. There's a great video on this. I sent it to you by email. It shows that it's just vague. It doesn't say anything about female bees. So they're too vague to say anything of value. And they're all pretty much common knowledge that was already known by Greece beforehand. So nothing about that is particularly spectacular. All of those facts have occurred before Islam without any supernatural things. Like what about these 4 facts requires the supernatural?
Okay, great. So basically, I'm going to take my 2 minutes and I'm going to respond to that. So basically, he's attacking straw man. We already agreed that if now he's attacking a straw man, that if you ban alcohol and just kill them and threaten them with their life, though, yeah, sure, you could achieve that. But this is a study which is done in the West. There is none of that.
What's the straw man? Could you explain the straw man to me? What is it?
You can ask in your 2 minutes, okay? Because you gotta stop interrupting me.
Nope.
Okay,
if you accuse me of fallacy, you're gonna have to defend it.
That's how debates are. Okay.
Yes.
In debates, people accuse each other of fallacy. You took the class, right?
Yes. So I don't care if you accuse me, but you have to actually explain what you mean. I can't just say you committed a who fallacy and not explain it. What is the straw man? Because you know what a straw man is, right?
Why don't we do this? Let's do this 1 minute back and forth. That way we can address each other's point.
Why don't you answer my questions? Just answer my questions.
I will. Okay, TJ. Okay, look, I have already explained to you, and I will explain to you again.
Nadir, this is my channel. You have to do what I say, or you get kicked off.
Okay.
So please answer my question. You accused me of a straw man fallacy. What is the straw man?
Okay. You said that, if you ban alcohol and you threaten people and kill them, you could achieve these type of results. Didn't you say that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so that is a straw man, which I'm talking about. And I will.
What is that a straw man of? What do you mean by straw man? I don't understand how that's a straw man.
Because this is not how the Quran, how it achieved this number of 50%, or I'm sorry, 50 times less than
I get you. I understand what you're saying now, but I never said that's how the Quran did it. Remember, you claimed that this could not be explained naturally.
Let me clarify. I'm sorry, I made one mistake here. The straw man argument is that you stated when I listed all the things which were, the Quran did scientifically, you said, well, there's nothing supernatural about this because the Incas did it, the scientific revolution, the Chinese people did it, so there's nothing supernatural there. That was a straw man argument. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
How is that a straw man? Could you explain?
Because I'm not claiming that was supernatural. This is up to what I've pointed out to you right now, that for a scientific revolution to take place, it has to, what the Quran did, this is only a supernatural source could have done it. That's not my argument. I'm agreeing with you. So you're attacking a straw man. Okay, so
if I remember correctly, you started off by saying a scientific miracle is a thing that has no natural explanation. That means
no, we're not there yet, TJ. Okay, so you've attacked a straw man argument. So we actually agree on this, that it's hypothetically possible to start a scientific revolution like what we see in the Quran from a natural point of view.
I'm lost again. So you started off by saying scientific.
Okay, but you asked me for the straw man. Now I gave you the straw man argument, which you asked me about. So now,
I still don't understand how it's a straw man because I understand your argument.
That's not my argument.
Right. So let me see if I can. I'm trying to follow your argument. So from what I've heard so far, you said you started off with the Quran is a scientific miracle. A scientific miracle is a thing that has no natural explanation. And then you listed these 4 facts: fetal alcohol syndrome, correct scientific error, scientific revolution, facts of the bees. Now, I interpret your argument to be those 4 facts in collectively do not have a natural explanation. Therefore, they are a scientific miracle. Is that your argument?
So the argument which you need to actually refute rather than the straw man
is trying to get your argument. So I'm trying to understand it. That's
so this is the argument which you need to refute. So you got one man, one book, which is doing all of these things. That's not humanly possible. For it is humanly possible to do it individually. It's humanly possible to ban alcohol, and then actually provide an implementation for it where people actually do follow that injunction and you save all these people. It's humanly possible to do that. It's humanly possible to do each and every one of these points, which I have raised. But for one man to do all of these things, that's not possible. This is the argument which you must refute.
Okay, so it's easy to refute. I can say here there is a human being named Bob, and Bob wrote in a book that if you drink alcohol, we're going to beat you, so don't drink alcohol. And that passage in his book of Bob will cause all of the people who follow Bob to stop drinking alcohol because they're going to get beaten if they drink alcohol. Secondly, he looked back at old books that were written 1,000 years before, and he said, oh, look, there's so many errors in this book, and I'm going to see, well, I have new knowledge, so I can correct those errors and say, well, that's factually wrong. Here is the factually correct thing. So now he's correcting errors in old books. And he can say scientific facts like, oh, well, you know what? We should value science and not killing people who have different ideas. Ah, well, that's great. We'll do that. So now they have a scientific revolution in that culture because they stopped killing the people who have other ideas, so which is a good thing. And he listed facts about other animals like, hey, animals leave the nest. Oh, God, surprise. Or, oh, they eat fruit. Ah, wow, super duper. And all these kinds of facts. He got facts about birds right. 4 facts about birds. Oh, my God. So he caused a decrease in alcohol, a scientific revolution, he corrected errors in an old book, and he got 4 facts right about birds. All of those are possible humanly with no God being there. He just made it up. It's the all praise Bob. So I just gave you an explanation of one guy who could do all of these things purely naturally with no God there.
Okay, you done?
Yes.
Okay, so I think I've successfully argued the point. What he's doing, he's showing how one person can do these things individually.
Wait, no, Bob did all of those things.
Hold on, TJ, let me finish my point.
Well, just to clarify, my argument was that Bob did all 4 of these things at the same. Yeah. So it was one guy doing all of them. I don't understand.
So one person. Okay, first of all, I want to correct your misinformation which you're giving people here about how alcohol is banned inside Islam.
Oh no, so I apologize, Nadir. I wasn't comparing this to Islam. This is this is my own. As
long as we understand, that's not how Islam is achieving.
Right, absolutely. That's not what I'm claiming. So I'm saying that Bob is a hypothetical human I've made up with his hypothetical religion, and he commanded people that if you drink alcohol, we will beat you. That belief caused that society to stop drinking alcohol. I'm not accusing this of Islam. It's not a comparison.
So let me now address your point. Okay. I will actually just take 1 minute, uninterrupted 1 minute, if you could. Okay, so you pointed out let's say there's a guy named Bob. It's possible that he can do all these things in this world. Maybe, and I will grant, maybe he could condemn alcohol, and maybe he could look at past books, at old books, and say, wow, that's really wrong. I can fix that. And that's definitely naturally possible. But what we know for this one guy now to do this and then start a scientific revolution, the same guy to start a scientific revolution. Now it's getting a little bit preposterous for one man to do all these things. And then he turned around and gave 4 scientifically correct statements about the bee. We know that's not this is not something which is just anybody can do, because we have many examples from Aristotle, Pliny the Elder, and other than them who have tried to do that, and they got some things right, some things wrong. The issue about the bee here, there's no way you could score 4 out of 4 without error. That's not possible, and we know that because we got the writings. Nobody, and you say, okay, somebody can do all that stuff. Show me one man on planet Earth who has ever existed who has done this stuff. Go
Remember,
ahead.
your argument was that it's for
Yeah.
something to be a scientific miracle, it cannot possibly have a naturalistic explanation.
Right.
Possibly means logically possible. So if I can give you an imagined hypothesis of Bob doing all of these things, then it proves it's not a scientific miracle because it has a natural explanation.
It's imaginary. That's the whole thing. You put together some Superman Bob doing these things, and that's the whole point. But there's no. You have shown my challenge to you.
Wait, Nadir, remember your
Show me one
definition.
man who has done this.
I don't need to, because remember your definition at the beginning was
John. It's over. Thank you.
No, because
That's
remember
why
your
that's a
definition.
very quick debate.
Your definition.
So I want to thank everybody
Nadir,
for coming
Nadir,
today.
You've lost.
Watch this. It's over.
You've lost the debate, Nadir,
and that's
so.
the winning argument. That's my point.
No, you've just
no man has
shown
done.
your ignorance of basic philosophy. So
it's over. Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, you've just shown your basic ignorance of philosophy. So,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to mute you for a minute, and then. Okay, so your problem here is that in your original definition of miracle, you said it's impossible to have a natural explanation. Impossible means it's not logically possible. Square circle, logical contradiction. So if I can show there's no logical contradiction, then by definition it has a natural explanation. And I just gave one. Bob did all of these things. And because it's logically possible, that's a naturalistic explanation. It's possible for a natural human man with no supernatural being to do all of these things. Therefore, it can't be a scientific miracle because it's possible purely by natural means. Possible, again, just means logically possible. Doesn't mean you have to give an example. It's not what logically possible means. Okay, you can continue now.
Okay, well, actually, I feel like what I wanted to prove, and you pretty much conceded the point here. If you look in history, you will never find any example of Bob which has ever existed. You have already conceded that point.
No, I didn't. I did not concede that point. I just said I didn't need to give examples.
Okay, if you've not conceded, give me that person's
I don't
name.
need to, because my goal is to disprove your argument. And your argument is that...
Okay, just admit there's nobody you can bring in history who can match.
No, I don't need to, Nadir. I can prove your argument wrong immediately without giving any examples because you said possible.
Admit the truth, TJ.
Nadir, you're ignorant of philosophy because you just said a scientific miracle is a thing that cannot possibly have a natural explanation.
Running away from the question.
No. This is just the first thing. I can give you 10 examples of Bob right now, but first you have to get past the first point of what you said.
Sure.
So you said that a logical, scientific miracle is a thing that has no natural explanation. I can prove the Quran, nothing in it is a scientific miracle by that definition because it is logically possible to explain all of it purely naturally. So that proves that definition wrong. Now, if you want to say, in addition to that, you can't prove any other example of human did these exact four things, that's a different argument. Because I just provided that you can have a natural explanation of these things, therefore your original definition is wrong. And you have to admit that before we can move on.
No. So individually, again, you can do these things individually. Like I will give you an example. What you pointed out about the China Revolution, and I think you also brought up the Enlightenment or something like that.
Nadir, that's a straw man. That's a straw man.
I haven't even finished my point.
Well, I know, because your first sentence was a straw man. Because I didn't say one of these individually. I said all four together. Bob did all four of these. That's logically possible. So saying one on its own.
How is that possible for one guy to do all this
Nadir,
stuff?
what does possible mean?
For what within the realm of human possibility. How can
Nadir, you can't use possible in the definition of possible. What does possible mean?
Meaning for it to be okay. You want me to give you a definition for possible?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes, please.
I'd prefer to just go on the internet and get you a definition.
That's okay. That's okay. Do that. I'm happy with that. That's fine.
Okay.
What is the definition of possible?
Possible.
If you go to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, that'll be good too.
Okay. Yeah. Able to be done within the power or capability of someone or something to be done.
So within the capability. So if it's within the capability, that means I can imagine a person who has the capability to do all of these things, whose name is Bob, for example, then that means it's possible, doesn't it?
Yeah, so you're basically imagining a superhero.
Wait. Imagine is okay, because remember, possible means within the capabilities.
Oh, sure, you can imagine someone. Right. Well, we can agree. You can imagine someone to do that. Now, I want to point out one thing which I forgot to mention, going back to the thing about the Chinese scientific revolution, the Inca, or whatever the examples you brought up. See, The revolution which you brought up, the scientific revolution which you brought up, this was not done by one man, but we could probably agree maybe thousands of people are responsible for doing these, for bringing forth the scientific revolution. And that's the problem. You are bringing thousands of people to match what one man, one book has done. And that is what makes your argument so ridiculous. See, if it was just one or two
So
things,
Nadir, you just admitted that we can't imagine a human being who has the capability to do all of these things with no God.
no, I didn't say can't imagine. Of course you can imagine superheroes. Why would I ever say that? No, if I said that, please.
No, just human. So there's no supernatural powers here. He's just human. No, nothing greater than any other human. So Bob has no superpowers. He's just a human being who wrote stuff, and that's it. And you admitted you can imagine this, and because you can imagine it, that means it's possible, right? So it's possible.
Let's agree on that.
So it's possible that Bob could exist without a God, right?
Yeah, TJ.
Yes.
No, I wouldn't say that. I said I could imagine in my play pretend world that there's a superhero named Bob who's doing all these things.
That's a straw man. That's a straw man, Nadir. A straw man means, so you know what a straw man is, right? Correct?
Sure. That's not your argument then, right?
Correct. That is exactly right. So that is not my argument, because I never said Bob had superpowers. I said Bob did 4 things that are perfectly humanly possible. And all he did was write stuff. He just used his hands, so he has muscles just like mine and a mind just like mine. And he wrote stuff down, and he looked at old books that were wrong and corrected them, with new knowledge, which happens all the time. No superpower there. He got facts correct about animals, like no superpower there. Caused a scientific revolution, no superpower there. So there's no superpower in any of those facts. So in my example, Bob is just a human exactly like me. His name is TJump, and he did these 4 things, and that is perfectly possible. We can imagine that. You agree we can imagine that, which means it's possible without a God.
We know. Let's just take the example. Well, first of all, you are comparing the fallacy which you are doing here is going back to the thing about the bee. You do accept from Pliny the Elder, from Aristotle, they've all produced their works on bees through trial and error.
I don't understand how this.
You don't have trial and error in the Quran.
You said there's a fallacy. What fallacy is this? You said there's some kind of fallacy here.
Well, I'm sorry. Actually, it's not a fallacy. It's a correction to the thing about bees. What you're saying, you cannot.
I didn't say anything about bees yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, I forgot. I didn't even bring up the point. What people probably are wondering, what are you even talking about? Maybe I should explain to people what is it that I'm talking about.
Pretty much everyone here saw the last debate, and they're commenting about it specifically. No, not the bees! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! So, but wait. So, my argument is that every one of these facts can be done by a human being with no God. We can imagine this, which means it's logically possible. Correct?
Do individually 1 or 2 of them?
All collectively. We can imagine a man named Bob who can do all 4 of these things without a God. And because it can be imagined, that means by definition it's logically possible, right?
I can't. I don't think. But here's the thing. If you want to, I think I have already achieved what I wanted to achieve.
Could you Google the definition of logically possible for me, please?
Let me just finish my point here. First of all, going back to the thing, I want to make a correction here about the bees, just so it's clear to everybody. All the people who have done research on bees, from Pliny the Elder to Aristotle and others,
didn't say anything about the bees. So
I know, but I want to make it clear. If you just let me talk here real quick.
Well, you already brought this up in the last time. I want to use our time efficiently as possible. So
allow me to speak.
I'd really like you to, the definition of logically possible in philosophy just means it doesn't have a contradiction in it. That's what logically possible means. So are you okay with that definition?
Well, no, I think I'm done in the sense, like, I think I've achieved what I wanted to achieve
that's
here.
Okay. You can think that.
And I want to, here's what I believe, what I think is why I want people to consider why the Quran is a scientific miracle. If you'll just let me explain.
Well, just to clarify, like, I have you in a trap right now, and you've just fallen face first into the trap, and everyone in the comments is laughing at you right now. And I want to give you a chance to address this before, like,
and that's okay. That's okay, because
I want to give you a chance to address this. So
me, you can be a jerk.
I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I'm trying to just give you an opportunity to clarify this. Logically possible.
I'm trying to find a way out of this discussion with you, because I feel like it's being
that's fine. That's fine. But I want to be fair to you and give you a chance to respond here. So logically possible in philosophy means you can imagine it because it doesn't have a contradiction. Like, you can't imagine a square circle but you can't imagine there's pink leprechauns on Mars or whatever. That's imaginable. So it's possible. So in philosophy, something is possible if you can imagine it, like if it doesn't have a contradiction. You can't imagine a round square, so that's not possible. So is it possible in logic to imagine a man named Bob who did all of these things with no God? That's what I keep asking you. Is that possible? And you keep saying no, which...
Yeah. Well, I think, now I could imagine like Superman. I could imagine all kinds of fictional, supernatural type characters in my head. I can
that's a straw man again. That's again,
Yeah.
because I didn't say anything supernatural. I didn't say any
I'm
superpowers.
just understanding your imagination, canard. But I feel like once you're going down that road, I've already achieved what I wanted to. I kind of looking to get out of this discussion here.
No, that's great.
I think, yeah.
But again,
I've already demonstrated. No, you've already conceded to the point. Nobody in history.
No, I never conceded that.
Do all these things.
No, I never conceded that. I said that I don't need to give an example because I've already proven you wrong. So I can give you 10 examples, but it doesn't make a difference. I've already proven you wrong. So because of the definition of possible, it just means can be imagined. That means you can imagine that.
I feel like because you can imagine a guy named Bob doing all these things.
That means it's possible.
Something like that has never happened in reality. You feel
Nadir, that's a different topic. All that means is it's possible. So that means, given your definition, and at the very beginning, you said a Quran is a scientific miracle, which means it is not possible for there to be a naturalistic explanation. That's what you said. I can quote you for it. I wrote it down. That means, based on the definition of possible, you are wrong. Definitively proven wrong, because it is possible, and we can prove it's possible because we can imagine it. There is no logical contradiction. Therefore, it's possible. Therefore, your original definition has been proven wrong with
because you can
certainty.
Imagine it happening.
That's what possible means, Nadir. That's what possible means.
I guess I might have a different definition than what you.
Okay, that's why I asked. How do you define possible?
Well, first of all, let me just, I feel like I'm really not able to, express what I want to say because you keep interrupting me, and I feel like once you start doing that kind of stuff, it's just walk away from the guy. That's why I kind of want to walk away from this discussion, because I feel like, and I told you that we should have a debate. You should have a set time limit so that.
I'm happy with the debate. Everyone in my comments is enjoying this thoroughly. We're enjoying it.
Hey,
so.
You could bring me here. You could tar and feather me, try to talk me down, try to embarrass me. That's fine. You can do that. I'm not claiming to be some kind of Teflon Don. So I think I feel like I've made my point with you, and I feel like there's no point in continuing like this. So I think we should just call it a day.
Sure. I'm happy with that. C'est la vie. The Quran has been debunked thoroughly. Thank you for talking.